What's up, everybody? I'm Maria Martin. I did not lose my voice from yelling at the Falcons, although you may think that that's the case after that one.
I'm Aaron Freeman in 9-9-9-9. The Falcons lose again.
I'm Jarvis Davis, and I'm sick of it.
Rise up, A-Town. It's the Falcons Squad. Everything Atlanta Falcons every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the ATL. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Straight from the ATL, the Falcons Squad Show starts now.
Welcome into the Falcons Squad Show. I'm your host, Jarvis Davis, and riding with me today, I have my main man, Aaron Freeman of Locked On Falcons, and I also have Maria Martin of 11 of Live. She is joining us today. And guess what, guys? I wanted to start off by letting you know that this episode of the Falcon Squad Show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So make sure you guys take advantage of that. Coming up on today's show, there will be no peace for Raheem Morris. Marquise Williams got some explaining to do. They played bend but don't break, but it broke. But first, we got to start off, guys, with this offense. I think that there were a few times, that you could say that Michael Penix didn't make a throw here, there. You can say Zach Robinson probably should have run the football a little bit more in a certain situation. And you said, you can also say that, this offense just put their defense in a bad situation late in the game by punting 3 consecutive times on consecutive drives. But Maria, when you think about the inconsistency of this offense, like, what do you think that it was today in this game against the Indianapolis Colts that the Falcons just weren't able to get anything going consistently?
Yeah, I mean, well, first and foremost, they stink on third down, and nothing was creative on third down whatsoever for the Falcons. They were 0 for 8 on third down. They could just not get out of that situation, which was really frustrating to watch. And you're starting to get a little bit concerned with how Michael Penix's ability or lack thereof of using his legs on certain plays to extend drives and extend the play. That's really suffocating this offense, I think. And a lot of people wondering, where the heck is Bijan Robinson? It's exciting that Tyler Algier had a big day. He had 2 touchdowns, his 5th and 6th of the year, which is now a season high for Tyler. That's great. But Bijan Robinson is what kind of makes this team go. And when you watch Jonathan Taylor on the other side rip apart the Falcons, you're wondering why the same can't be said for this offense. And it feels like whenever this offense takes one step forward, they take a couple steps back. And it was similar situations like that today. I think Michael Penix, he struggled a lot. You know, he was under pressure a lot. I'll give him that. But just continuously being under pressure, he's never good in those situations. And he proved that again in Germany. But you're right. I think that there were a couple of times where the offense really put the defense in a very sticky situation, especially late. And when you were not capitalizing on certain situations, granted, there were a couple of critical drops, thinking about the Kyle Pitts one early and then Darnell Mooney late in the game. Those happened, of course, but that third down, it is glaring and it is ugly. And you're just not really going to be able to move the ball like you want to efficiently when you're 0 for 8 on a down such as that.
Yeah, it has to suck just to be able to be in those situations and consistently fail. Like there has to be able to, when as a play caller, I feel like Zach Robinson just can't find situations where he can get some type of go-to matchup that he can foster in those particular moments. But it's so weird because in the red zone, he's able to find Drake London. He's able to figure out a way to get the ball in Drake London's hand. He's able to get a favorable matchup in the red zone when it comes to getting the rock to Drake London. And he just isn't able to do that on third downs for whatever reason. And I think that, going back and watching a little bit of tape, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. We have to find an answer on that, because that's just so weird to me. And the non-connection with Darnell Mooney, I know that he missed training camp. I know that he has some injuries he's been dealing with. It's just when he targets Darnell Mooney, it is an automatic incompletion in my eyes. And I think that for you, Aaron, just looking at the offense as a whole and the inconsistency that it's had, like, you gotta question everything at this moment.
Well, yeah, you mentioned Darnell Mooney, and like to me, that's been the sort of underrated element that has basically kind of tanked the Falcons offense. Like so much of their success last year was just like, hey, Mooney's open down there somewhere and Kirk just floating up, those deep comebacks and all that stuff. And that was a big percentage of their explosive plays. And a lot of times they were able to get bailed out of that. And, there were a couple of moments early in the game where it's like, okay, maybe this is going to be a good version of Darnell Mooney that we haven't seen so far this year. And as the game wore on, that was not the case. And it's funny because it's like we're talking about how inconsistent the offense is. And this was arguably like the third best game the offense has played this season. And that kind of tells you how, like you can try to spin this as like a positive game, but like at the same time, like there's still a lot of shortcomings. You guys mentioned it with the third down stuff, where it does feel like whenever teams get them in longer down and distance, they're able to send pressure, and the Falcons don't really have a good answer for that. You saw that a number of times that disrupted these third downs. Some of it is owed to Michael Penix not being able to consistently get outside the pocket. You saw a couple of times where he was able to extend plays outside the pocket and keep things moving, but that was not a consistent, reliable thing for them on third downs. And then you just saw some of the missed throws, the missed connections, some of the drop balls, all that stuff. And it just feels like when this offense doesn't have the balance, of being in like a 3rd and 2 or whatever, where they have the potential to either run the ball or throw the football, like they cannot just be a straight drop back passing attack. And some of that's owed to basically it's Drake London or else in terms of the passing game. And, not necessarily being able to, the run game was fine today. It was certainly significantly better than what we have seen the last couple of weeks. But late in the game and overtime, when it was like, hey, let's see if we can get this run game going to facilitate a potential game-winning drive here, the Colts were pretty much locking it down. And that's kind of the challenge for this team, where it's like, sometimes they're successful running the football, but when they need to be able to run the football, they just can't do it consistently. And that leads to games and performances like this, where a lot of yards and potentially a lot of points are left on the field.
Yeah, they definitely left some points on the field. I feel when you look at the totality of the situation. But Aaron, you know what, man? I've been thinking about this, and Maria kind of brought it up a little bit. We're probably going to dive into it a little bit more tomorrow on the Squad Show, but I kind of want to get your thoughts on it, Maria. When we talk about the inconsistencies and the missed throws with Michael Penix specifically, and how there were some moments where he should have been able to make those throws, because we've seen him make some throws that, man, he probably shouldn't have made that particular throw. But there are the moments, it was a couple moments in this game where he just couldn't make it. Do you feel like that's the situation where Michael Penix should be getting a little bit more of the blame, more so than Zach Robinson?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's tough, especially because it's a young quarterback and we're watching him develop, in front of our eyes as quickly as he possibly can. And Mike does a lot of good things. And I think there were certain things that he did today that showed improvement. One of the biggest criticisms for him last year was the inability to put touch on the football. And he did that in a couple of different key positions, honestly, today. However, similar to what Aaron is saying and what I said off the top of the show, just his inability to use his legs in scenarios where he needs to really hurts him. And he's making the same mistakes over and over. That's my biggest concern, is that you're not really seeing that development piece happen throughout the season. I mean, this is the 3-6 football team right now, and they are supposed to be in a totally different scenario. We thought that this Falcons offense was going to look similar to what the Colts have produced at this point in the season offensively. And granted, they had obviously their struggles today, but Mike finishes 12 for 28 for 177 yards. You expect a lot more out of him. And it's starting to get concerning. I don't want to say I'm absolutely concerned at this point in time, because I still think it's a little bit too early with a young quarterback like this. But when you're starting to see these things where, okay, yes, he has to make throws that are like that. That's what gets concerning for me specifically. The drops don't help either, but when he's pressured, he really struggles. And there was a lot of that in all 4 quarters today.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, And I was kind of screaming at the television when with Jeff Olbrich. We'll talk about defense in the next segment, but I was screaming at TV when he wasn't putting pressure on Daniel Jones. I was like, man, when you put pressure on him and force him to make a decision, he makes a bad one most of the time. And I can say the same thing for Michael Penix today, because it was so like his indecisiveness in those when they send pressure and when that rush is starting to hit him and basically throw off his timing. I thought he made a couple plays off script today. I was very that throw that he made to Bijan Robinson right down the sideline. I was like, okay, it didn't go your way, and you were able to figure out how to make a play. So yeah, I need to see more of that. But overall, he wasn't good in those situations when things don't go how he expected. And I think that for you, Free, what do you feel like that inconsistency has been in those moments when he feels pressure? And do you think that's something that can linger for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think we've seen enough of a body of work to suggest that this is kind of what it's going to be. There were some opportunities, there were some great moments for Michael Penix in this game, and there were some tough moments where you had some open receivers, and Maria talked about, you had an open Kyle Pitts in the end zone. He underthrows him, right? So you have, the one time David Sills is wide open, he throws it, 3 yards behind him. And it's like, look, you're not going to get another opportunity for David Sills.
Yeah, that's probably not going to happen again, ever.
Like a third down where someone other than Drake London gets open, like you have to make that throw, because that's the only time that's going to happen this season. And so like those are the types of plays. And again, talking about the lack of creation on a consistent basis when you're getting, you saw late in the game with that Zaire Franklin sack where stunts and blitzes, just this team does not have good answers for when teams are scheming up, doing all the same things.
Hi, Ryan Newell.
The Falcons defense does. And it's just like, it's almost like they don't practice against it, and it's like they don't know what to do when a team throws a stun at them or throws a blitz at them. And so I do think these are issues with Michael Penix. I'm not ready to, be too harsh on it. I think it's just part of the growing pains of a young quarterback. But it is frustrating when you see situations like we saw at a couple of critical moments in this game where the throws are there. It's there for the taking. You got to hit those throws, but at the same time, like, we can sit here and point the fingers at too many drop passes, too many breakdowns in protection, questionable play calls in critical situations, all those sorts of things. So it's hard to sort of single out Michael Penix and being like, oh, he's the problem. But you do want to see your young quarterback make progress in some of these areas. And there's been some, since the beginning of the season. But again, we're reaching the point where we're approaching almost 16 starts for him coming up soon. And it's like we got a season's worth of games coming up over the next month. And you kind of want to see that breakthrough moment. And I thought last week you kind of had a breakthrough for him as far as being on the road. He didn't necessarily build off of that game. But at the same time, like, I don't think this was like a huge regression for Michael Penix. So there's still promising signs for him. But at the same time, like, the sense of urgency with this Falcons season is pretty much at its end, where it's like, if you don't go on a 3-game winning streak, right now, like it's a wrap.
Yeah, you're on a 4-game losing streak. You just lost to the Colts 31-25 in overtime over in Berlin, Germany. And I think that this is, we'll talk about Raheem Morris, having that piece that he was talking about finding early in the week. We'll get into that a little bit later on. But I think overall, this game, this offense, Zach Robinson as a play caller, Michael Penix as the quarterback of this team, we just didn't get any type of consistency today. There were moments where I was pumping my fist at the television when they would just turn around and hand it off to Tyler Algier and say, hey, stop it. What you going to do about it? And they just ran the ball down the Colts' throat. And I'm just like, okay, Zach Robinson identified something that is working. And it don't matter if they know it's coming. He's just running the ball down your throat. And that's what you want to be able to do as an offense, especially an offense that is built around running the football. So I think that was a beautiful moment, but, it was just too many just kind of like tuck your head, tuck your tail, and run moments for this offense today. But coming up next, the offense, the defense, they played bend but don't break. But shoot, they broke in the second half.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over there at Peloton. Look, folks, it's time to break through the busiest time of the year with a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus that's powered by Peloton IQ. It's Peloton's most elevated technology and equipment yet that gives you real-time guidance, and it gives you endless ways to move, whether you want to work out by yourself or if you want to work out with your favorite instructor, like my personal favorite, Alex Toussaint. He always gets me fired up to tackle the day. And the thing I like about Peloton, it helps me achieve more in less times. They have features that help you plan, stay motivated, track your progress, and Peloton IQ also provides personalized workout plans and recommendations. That's something that I use right now during the busiest time of the year covering the NFL. They plan my workouts for me based on my mood, my vibe, and also my favorite instructors. So make sure you check it out and use it, because it also helps you correct your form in real time, and it maximizes your reps. It counts your reps so that you can do it smarter, safer, and more efficient. Let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at One Peloton.
I want to thank you for making the Falcons Squad Show your first listen of the day. Or your second listen, go ahead and check out Aaron Freeman right after this. I promise you, he got a big surprise for you, because, man, he is going to come in flaming hot. I promise you, it is going down on the Locked On Falcons right after this Falcons Squad Show. So make sure you check that out. Now, Aaron, when you think about this defense, like coming into this game, everybody and their mama knew that they were going to try to run the football, especially coming out of the type of game that Daniel Jones had last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And they got off to a nice start in the first half, right? But it seems like that second half, the Falcons just didn't have an answer for Mr. Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah. I don't know. Is 323 yards a record for rushing success? I don't know. If it ain't, then good God. I can't imagine running for more.
Bijan Robinson's longest run of the year record.
Yeah.
So throw it in the pile, man.
I know the 244 is not the record for a single game, but it's probably in the top 10 now. And so, this run defense has been bad all year long. Mm-hmm. It just continues to be terrible. There's really, nothing that they could do to stop it. They tried to trot out, different linebackers out there, but as we've been discussing, Jarvis, it don't matter when guys are getting blown off the ball on the defensive line. Mm-hmm. And then you lose Sam Roberts early in this game, so you don't really have a nose tackle. David Onyemata is doing his best, but he's not a nose tackle.
Could have used Laquel Lunt, then maybe.
Yeah, well, he was hurt this week, so then
Okay.
There you go. So it's tough. Boy, I don't know. What can you say about this run defense? It's just downright terrible. It's been downright terrible. You went to this game being like, joking about Jonathan Taylor won't run for 200 yards. He'll just run for 196. And he was just like, nah, man, I'm blowing that completely out the door. Daniel Jones is like, I haven't run all season long, but guess what? I'm going to run this week because the Falcons, for the umpteenth time this year, refuse to be able to stop a mobile quarterback when he decides to run. That 3rd and 21 where he got a 19-yard scramble and nobody came close to touching him to set up a 4th and 2. It was just all right. So, anytime.
Aaron, can I speak on that for a second?
Go ahead.
Man, do you understand how hard it is to get 19 yards on 3rd and 21 as the quarterback? That's not easy. That's not an easy feat.
It's easy against the Falcons.
And they made it look easy. They made it look easily, consistently running past the quarterback. And good and doggone well the man is going to move. He understands that, hey, there's pressure coming from this way. I feel it. So I'm going to move my feet and take off and run exactly where that dude came from or where he's supposed to be and keep in containment. And, I know we're kind of not used to that because Michael Penix seems to have an issue with that as well. It's it's just so much stuff that I feel like there was so many moments. Maybe my expectations are too high. You can tell me if I'm wrong. Maybe my expectation a little bit too high for this defensive line because they have so many young guys. They count on so many young guys to rush the passer. But you know, you got a guy in his contract year uneducated. I read there was a flag there I was raising. I was throwing my flag. Stop running past the quarterback. Stop letting the quarterback get out of the box, man. Keep him in the box. Make a throw, you know, or push the doggone offensive lineman into him, you know, and then you get off the block, or then you spin back into him and try to make the sack. So it's just that was one of those things where you talking about that really burnt my brownies, like, you know what I'm saying, like that burned my brownies, and you know I wanted to go to the bathroom after that. But Maria.
How do I follow that up?
Right, exactly.
Ask me what you want to ask me. What's going on?
Yeah, so I don't know how to transition out of that. So I'm just gonna ask you the question. Just, do you feel like Jeff Ulbrich had the right game plan coming into this game?
First of all, I thought. Oh, go ahead. Keep going.
Knowing what Jonathan Taylor was bringing to the table, knowing what you were going up against, knowing that, hey, they're going to turn around and hand the ball off to him. Do you feel like he came with the right game plan in order to, you know, get a win today?
Okay, first of all, I thought Aaron was entirely too calm this whole time. So I was waiting for one of you guys to have like a couple screws loose. And Jarvis, you started that. So I'm waiting for Aaron to unravel a bit.
Yes. I'm going to get him worked up at some point.
You will. So, yeah, for me, I mean, short answer, yes, because as Aaron was talking about, this run defense has not been their bread and butter all year. So it's not like it's magically going to change. And Jonathan Taylor's a really good football player. You knew he was going to come out and do similar things that he did. You didn't really think he was going to go for 244 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's, you know, a little bit more exceeding expectations than I think we could have predicted. But similar to how we felt about Bijan Robinson through the first, 5 games of the year, it's just a hard player to stop, regardless. Saquon Barkley in the same breath. Jonathan Taylor's playing really good football right now. So I think the Falcons had a good defensive plan. I mean, you look at them in the first half, they had 2 sacks. They had a pick. They didn't allow a 3rd down or 4th down conversion in the first half of the ballgame. I know you're talking about how in the second half they fell off a bit, but give the defense credit for being the side of the ball that's always kept the Falcons in football games so far this year. Mm-hmm. And you continue to see a little bit more positives. Brandon Dorless getting another sack. He's got 3 in the last 2 games, something crazy like that.
Yeah.
And then you have the first-round draft picks being able to get after the quarterback as well. The defense does a lot of things right. So for me, I think it's hard to focus on the run defense being as bad as it is because I don't really think it's going to be some miraculous change at this point in the year. I just don't think they have the personnel pound for pound to do it, to be honest. And I don't think that's a Jeff Ulbrich issue. I think that that's certainly a personnel issue. But what I will say is, you know, the Falcons defense, for all intents and purposes, which, Jarvis, I know you do have high expectations for the defense, and you should, because they've shown us that they can be at the top of the statistic boards in multiple different categories. And so your expectation is obviously high. I still think they're much improved. I don't know that there's much stopping Jonathan Taylor, though, of course, you wanted some of that stuff back. And the defense was put in some really tough positions today. And what's immensely frustrating for that side of the ball is, you know, they're forcing these 3 and outs, turnover on downs consistently, and the offense goes 3 and out and doesn't help you out and can't move the football. So I think it's tough to put too much blame on that side of the ball, especially because I thought for the most part, if you're going to look at it in totality as a whole, I thought they had a pretty good game.
Yeah, I think they were solid in moments, right? And it's truly unfortunate that the offense wasn't able to come alongside with them. I think you make a great point because it was just inevitable that Shane Steichen was going to say, "Man, we know y'all can't stop this. So we're just gonna keep on rolling and do what you got to do. And the Falcons were fortunate enough to be able to get turnover on downs twice, in this game. So when you think about it, they pointed out their deficiency, and the Colts pounded on that bad boy consistently, but they were able to make plays in those particular moments. Now, speaking of making plays in particular moments, I'm not going to let this segment go by without allowing my main man, Aaron Freeman, to kind of give Jesse Bates some love.
Okay.
Because the man was playing his butt off in that first half, man. Like, he got a little sketchy on that touchdown run overtime. But we ain't going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that right now. I want to kind of give you the floor to say how Jesse Bates has really started to turn his game up in these last couple of weeks.
Well, we'll forgive Jesse Bates because he was one of 12 Falcons today that decided not to tackle Jonathan Taylor in this game. So,
he's forgiven.
But
he went with the crowd on that one.
Yeah. I never know what you're going to say, Jarvis, when you set these things up. So I'm just
I got nervous.
have no idea what player he's going to use.
I got nervous.
Anybody.
I'm not going to ask you for your social security number, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? We talk about, baby.
He's like, your main man. And I'm like, this could be like 18 people that Jarvis is about to drop on the show. So, yeah, man, it was good to see Jesse Bates, especially early in the game. As Maria said, like, the defense played a good enough game to give this team a chance to win. It was by no means a perfect game. That's kind of been the through line these last couple
crazy to say, right? Yeah.
Enough to keep you in games every single week that we talk about it.
There you go, Maria. Yep.
And so the challenge of the defense is they're not playing as well as they were at the beginning of the season, where they were like legitimately helping the team win games.
Yeah.
But they are giving this team every opportunity with the turnovers, with the sacks, getting those turnovers on downs, forcing some punts and whatnot. And unfortunately, the Falcons just refuse to take advantage of that. And so, I can't recall, let me look it up, if that Jesse Bates interception resulted in points for the Falcons. Oh, no, that was right before.
It was right before the half. Yep.
Before the half, yeah.
Yeah, so, I guess we'll talk about that in the next upcoming segment when we talk about Raheem Morris. But, why that didn't result in points. But, yeah, it's big for this team, especially in moments like that, because I remember watching this team for a long time. And it always was like, oh, it's the 4-minute drill, it's the 2-minute drill. The Falcons are definitely giving up points in these situations. And it's a welcome change to see this team being able to create some of these turnovers and get these stops in these critical moments and win that middle 8 portion of the game, which you felt real good with the team getting us, scoring, then getting a stop, and then coming out and scoring in the second half with a field goal and then forcing a fumble on a sack strip. And you're like, oh, this is going to be good. And then everything kind of grinds down to a halt after that point, and it's just kind of a back and forth slugfest for this team. So, I'm glad that Jesse Bates is causing you to question a lot of things, Jarvis. After the slander that you unfortunately gave him after that 49ers game, whoever the Falcons intern is that is listening to these shows and running it up the food chain, they did a solid by letting Jesse know that Jarvis Davis was coming for him on the pod.
I was not pleased because my expectations are very high for him. You helped me do that. It's your fault, so I blame you for raising my expectations for this player.
Can I just say the Falcons defense had 7 sacks and they lost this football game. Like, what are we talking about? It literally, it is so
sounds familiar, doesn't it? Last week they had 6 against the Patriots.
It is so frustrating that you consistently talk about good teams find a way to win. Yeah. Bad teams also find a way to lose. And when you have your defense putting you in certain situations, i.e. 7 sacks, something that the Falcons were begging for last year, and losing a game, what are we even talking about anymore? They consistently keep them in games, and it's frustrating.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the frustrating part, right? When you think about it, it's like, we've been begging for this team to get some type of pass rush for the past decade and a half, right? I could probably throw 2 decades, close to 2 decades, right? Just from a team perspective, because there's not one guy that is consistently getting to the quarterback. They have It's a whole bunch of young pups and, a guy that I'm about to give a little love as well. Just getting there, getting home. And I think that when you I thought this was a very special moment for me. So I have to point this out that happened during this game. Back-to-back weeks where your 2 first-round picks, who are edge rushers, combined for a strip sack fumble recovery. That is a moment that almost made me feel like a proud papa. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are moments where my daughters just make me smile. That's the same type of feeling I had when I saw James Pierce Jr. jump on Daniel Jones' back, knock that ball out, and then Jalen Walker almost scooped that bad boy up. And I was just like, man, just get the ball. So I have to give James Pierce as well. But most of the love that I'm giving is Jalen Walker. Jalen Walker, y'all understand that this dude is a football player, and this dude is going to be one of those guys. I remember when Free was talking about, I can't remember if it was on the Falcons podcast, Locked on Falcons or the Falcons Squad. He was talking about how this season is probably going to get to a point where we're going to be looking for guys who want to be around, who's going to be foundational pieces for this team going forward, regardless who's the coach or who's the general manager for this team. And I think that you can go ahead and put in permanent marker that number 11 is going to be that guy going forward.
Yeah.
But so for me, this defense, like Maria mentioned, Free, you mentioned as well, they played well enough to win this game.
Mm-hmm.
They got exposed with the run defense, but hey, we know what this is. There's nothing you can do about it unless you calling Gilbert Brown to come out of retirement to come play for you on first and second down. But like I said, all the other elements of this team were definitely right on par with you should win if you get these type of numbers at the end of the game. But coming up next, man, Marquise Williams need to be put on notice. This episode of the Falcons Squad Show is brought to you by Rippling. If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS promised to make work easier, but now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS. That's sad, folks. Software as a disservice. That's why you need Rippling. Rippling is the unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. By uniting your employees, teams, and departments in one system, folks, not 7, Rippling removes the bottlenecks, busy work, and silos your software has created. Whether you want to run your entire HR, IT, and finance operations as one, or just fill in the gaps in your software stack, Rippling can do all of that for you, folks. So right now, you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/lockedonnfl. Learn more at rippling.com/lockedonnfl. That's rippling.com/lockedonnfl for 6 months free, folks. Go there right now. Terms and conditions apply. We talked about the offense, how they've been inconsistently inconsistent. Talked about the defense, how they bend but don't break, but they broke. And it's okay. But they played well to win. Mm-hmm. Special teams was absolutely awful, Maria. When you look at the moments where they couldn't be awful, it seems like they just said, yeah, we're going to be bad in the worst possible moment ever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Where do I start? This was clearly the biggest issue for the Falcons today. Put aside what a lot of people will say was a really bad performance by Michael Penix. The offense just being lackadaisical again. Defense, fine, whatever. Special teams is a problem. And they are a problem, I think, the last couple of weeks consistently. You're constantly putting your opposing team, so the Colts obviously today, in excellent field position after Defense puts you in a good position. Offense goes 3 and out. Special teams is just like, here, go ahead, score a touchdown. That's what happened on several different occasions. Takes the Colts 2 plays to make a touchdown after they get into really good field position. Special teams isn't stopping anybody. And for a second straight week, they're really setting up opponents to just kind of do whatever they want. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating to watch. And that is certainly something that's not getting better. And to me, they are my biggest concern, I think, moving forward and currently, for sure.
Yeah, when you think about just in the kick return game, they had four returns for 139 yards with an average of 35 yards per return.
It's not good.
That is absolutely ridiculous. That is in today's game with this funky behind kickoff that they have going on right now. That is not supposed to be your average, like, because essentially you almost putting yourself at the 50-yard line, which puts your defense, who we said played really good today, you know, but they had their moments, in a bad position. So, like, even when you think about that, just particular, but that type of return, is just that the offense, Shane Steichen and this Daniel Jones led offense, it's easy to say, you know what, we're gonna turn around and hand off to Jonathan Taylor. Shoot, we're gonna be in the red zone the way we've been running the rock. So I think that Marquise Williams has been a guy in the past that we've given the benefit of the doubt. And coming into this season where you're on your third kicker, and I did not like how they handled the Young Wei Koo situation. They claimed that it was a competition and all this crap. And with a guy that you didn't even have to worry about cutting, and Lenny Craig, this is. I know a lot of people want to put that on Raheem Morris, but I think part of it is Marquise Williams not being that guy right now, or I don't think he's going to be that guy anymore, because this has been consistent in his return game. And even you talk about Josh Downs in the punt return game, he had three returns for 32 yards with an average of almost 11 yards per touch. That's the first down that the offense doesn't have to get. That's another first down that the defense essentially has given up, and they ain't even got on the field yet. So when you think about all of those things, Free, like for you, what has it been for you as far as with this special team unit and what you saw today?
Well, the other thing I want to point out is, like, the Colts were down their normal kick returner. Anthony Gould is their normal kick returner. So these were backups essentially that were gashing the Falcons special teams coverage.
Here's Aaron.
So it's I don't know what to say. Like,
there he is.
yes, let's go. Let's say what's on your heart, my friend. Lay it on the couch, baby. It's therapy Sundays now.
I mean, I'm at a point where it's just like special teams is just like whatever. I don't care about it anymore, because clearly the Falcons don't care about it anymore in terms of performing. And like, I know there was an early punt with Bradley Pinion. They downed it in the 2, and then it was like, oh, okay, like, this is going to be a good Bradley Pinion day. And then over time, he botches a punt, and that helps set up, the potential game-winning drive there at the end. So it's one of those things where, like, we've been talking about it all season long, where you need to be able to win in multiple phases of the game, right? And consistently, the Falcons have been winning on the defensive side of the phase of the game, and special teams and offense has been very much up and down. And today's special teams performance, coupled with the inconsistencies you had in the other 2 phases, you really needed that unit to kind of come through for you, and they haven't consistently been able to do it. And so I don't know. I'm just at a point where it's just like, the special teams is bad. Like, what else is new? Like, just kind of, I don't know. We'll see how it all turns out. But, like, at least the kicker made some kicks, so I guess that's a positive. I don't know.
The third kicker, Zane. Yeah, and it's important to mention too that we haven't mentioned it yet. The Colts, their special teams missed opportunities. They had that missed extra point, and then the missed field goal as well, and then obviously the missed 2-point conversion on offense. But when their special teams obviously looked a lot better in totality versus the Falcons, but when they are missing opportunities and the Falcons can't capitalize on that, that's also not great. So, the Falcons special teams really didn't put them in any positions to miss many opportunities. But again, I think it's important to note that the Colts special teams as well had their struggles. It's just the Falcons could not capitalize on those opportunities that would have helped them win the game.
Yeah, and I think that, I'm glad that you brought up Zane Gonzalez. I think that, I don't know about you all, but when he was lining up for the extra point, I was just like, okay,
Hold your breath.
are we going to get a cookie today or not? It's like, you're going to get him a little treat. Oh, you make an extra point. All right, and I think that just kind of goes back to where we are with this special team. I feel like special teams used to be a respected unit on this squad. And I think that, Aaron makes a great point when you're talking about winning different phases of the game, because to get a win in the NFL, most Sundays, if not all, if you win 2 out of 3 phases, you're going to get a win. And especially if you couple that special teams unit with an offense that puts up points. And that's what you have in the Colts. Colts were the number 1 team scoring and scoring offense coming into this game. And Maria, you brought up those miscues, but that return game came through for them. The hodgepodge of returners that they threw out there, those guys actually were able to get it done. So, Freed, I know this might not. For me, let me start with you, Maria. So do you feel like Zane Gonzalez did enough to at least keep his job for one more week?
Yeah, I mean, one more week, yeah, because at this point, you're on your 3rd kicker. It's so crazy that we're even talking about this. And Zane Gonzalez, obviously, he's a veteran. He's been around the NFL for a long time, has a decent pedigree enough to say, okay, we trust this guy moving forward. You could have said the same things about the other 2 kickers that they had. So I don't know if there is some curse out on the kicking situation and the Falcons, but if you have put this curse on that position, please let go of it. It's time. Literally 3rd kicker this year so far. Just let it go. It's okay. You don't have to tell us who you are. Just get rid of it. But in all seriousness, no. I think, yeah, he should be the kicker until he does things that we saw the other 2 do.
Yeah, I would just say, it was funny because Michael Badgley was the Colts kicker today, and he was a midseason pickup for them, and he was another kicker that the Falcons worked out after week 1.
It's poetic, isn't it?
Yeah, and I was like, oh, the Falcons chose correctly when he missed those kicks earlier. And I'm like, oh, this is the one win that the Falcons have because Michael Badgley had a bad game. But as you said, Maria, like the Colts left like 6 points on the board just from their special teams unit, and they still managed to win this game. And that kind of tells you how the rest of the game went, where like the Falcons could not take advantage of, that opportunity.
Yeah, I think this is going to be one of those scenarios where it's not going to matter whether or not the kicker is going to be able to stick around, because you're on a 4-game losing streak, and I'm trying to see the light. I feel like the defense has been that, and this offense is just. We talked about the issues, and we'll dive into it a little bit more tomorrow on the Falcons Squad. Make sure you guys come check that out. But this is one of those games where it's just kind of like beginning to come a little numb. Yeah. So, but yeah, make sure you check out Locked On Falcons, because Free is going to blow that bad boy up. I promise you. Coming up next, Raheem Morris talked about having peace when he made that decision for Zane Gonzalez, giving him a little peace. But shoot, I might make a case that he ain't gonna have no pieces keeping his job. This episode of the Falcons Squad Show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, folks, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score, next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. You know what, guys? I'm talking about the Atlanta Hawks. Yeah, because, hey, man, the Falcons, they doing what they do. They're falconing. But the Hawks are figuring out a way to get wins without Trae Young. So if you want to get a win, go check those guys out, man. You can get everything you need to do on FanDuel and win you a little change, man. Because, you know, where we are right now with this team, we're trying to figure it out. But yeah, go check the Hawks out and you can do what you need to do. It keeps the game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. So right now, the FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Wrapping things up here on the Falcons Squad Show, the Atlanta Falcons take the L against the Indianapolis Colts 31-25 with the huge run by Jonathan Taylor. Just caps off a humongous day that he had, and he just ran all over the Falcons defense. Polar Falcons run defense, they just can't figure it out. But I think that, I don't know about you all, but I think that when you're talking about going on a losing streak like this one, where you had some good showings, but you just couldn't get it done, i.e. this game and the last game against the Patriots, and you just had some bad ones that you're just trying to figure out, like, okay, does Raheem Morris deserve to be the coach? But regardless of how you feel about this particular game, well, let me ask you this, Free. Do you feel any differently about Raheem Morris and his decision making? Let's start with the clock management. 3rd and long, you don't call a timeout after getting a sack. Do you feel like that should have been one of those moments where he said he should have called a timeout and to give his offense the opportunity to try to put some more points on the board before the half?
Should it have been? Sure. But this has been a consistent theme with Raheem Morris. And so when you ask the question, do I feel differently? No, because this is just basically what happens seemingly every single week, where the Falcons are potentially have an opportunity to get a stop right before halftime, and all they had to do is call a timeout, and they refuse to call a timeout. And this is just kind of par for the course for them. So watching it again happen this week, like, we're at the point where, like, the same issues plague the Falcons over and over again. And, like, I'm not even mad at them, because I'm just like, oh, this is what happens every week, whether we're talking about Raheem Morris mismanaging clock at the end of the first half, whether we're talking about the Falcons always having to burn at least one timeout every game to avoid a delay of game penalty because they can't get the plays in on time. You know, all these things that have been consistent issues throughout the season continue to plague this football team. And so, you know, I understand why other people were frustrated by it, but I'm just like, oh, well, you know, we're going to check all these boxes in the game where, you know, we're going to have a bad Bradley Pinion punt. We're going to have, a missed throw on, a key critical 3rd down. We're going to have poor clock management. We're going to have almost a delay game penalty and lose a timeout. All these various things that have just been consistent issues. And so it's just like, all right, well, they checked that box. All right, on to the next one. What box are we going to check next? Okay. There's the whatever the next one is. And so that's just kind of how I'm at with this stage.
Yeah. I don't understand the messages after games for Ra. They've always been, we got to figure out a way to fix it. And based off of your response, they can't. He can't. The clock management can't fix it. The offense is almost like watching paint dry at times. I always said this. You have to be able to have a tempo package in your back pocket as an offense. I don't care what style of offense you run. You have to be able to go into a hurry-up situation, and your quarterback has to be able to flourish, get the protection right, identify things before the snap and be able to snap the ball with 12 seconds left on the clock, on the play clock. It's just every time they get to the line of scrimmage, I'm just like, man, come on, let's go. Get some type of sense of urgency. And I think that non-sense of urgency comes from the head coach. Like, you have to say, man, let's speed this bad boy up. There's every game, we have to sit here and say, yep, at some point they're gonna have to burn the timeout, like you mentioned, Free. That shouldn't be the case. This is football. That's football 1-on-1. That's day one type of stuff that we're sitting here talking about and pointing out every game. We're able to point it out every game, that the clock management. Zach Robinson moved down from the box. Okay, yeah, communication is going to be better. Communication being better should translate to not having to burn a timeout every week. And they haven't been able to fix it. So for me, Raheem Morris can't fix it, because you're on a 4-game losing streak, still having clock management issues, and with your timeouts, and the offense just so can't get out of being so methodical. So for you, Maria, where do you sit coming into this game? How you feel about Raheem Morris? Has that changed, or are you a little bit more fired up than what you were before, or are you kind of just indifferent, like Free?
I'm indifferent. I don't think it's changed for me. I really thought heading into this game, this was a game that they couldn't afford to lose. Mm-hmm. Because when you look at the postseason picture, it's automatically now become very bleak for this team. They're on a 4-game losing streak. They're 3-6 for the first time since 2020. At this point in the year last year, under Kirk Cousins, they were 6-3. Gross. Yeah. You flip that script at this point, and we thought that this team was going to be in a much different position. I think one thing that when you're talking about peace and got to find a way to fix it and whatever, you're through 9 games. You have not found ways to fix it. And not just talking about Raw, talking about everybody. Mm-hmm. And there doesn't seem to be a sense of urgency in the building. I'm sure it's there, but sometimes it's important to verbalize these things. Like, no, this is not good enough. We have to win, and we have to win right now. We'll do whatever it takes, not we'll figure it out. You see what I mean? Like, there is a difference in the messaging, and I think some teams do a very good job when their backs are against the wall at illustrating that this is unacceptable for this franchise. And sometimes it feels like the Falcons don't have that. Again, I'm sure they feel that, of course. They're all professionals and they all want to win football games. But when verbalizing it, sometimes that helps manifest some of that stuff too. It sounds ridiculous, but it's true. And I think when you have people in your building with their hair on fire, it makes a difference. And I haven't felt that yet. Maybe going all the way to Berlin, Germany, and losing a game you absolutely should have won, and coming back on a really crappy flight back to the States and turning around and having a division game the following Sunday, maybe that puts their hair on fire. I don't know. But the wheels are falling off for this team, a team that we said multiple times in the offseason, without a doubt, could make the playoffs. And it's become very concerning that the consistent message is we will find a way to fix it. Instead of, we're going to fix this. We're not going to be on this 4-game losing skid any longer. And obviously it doesn't help when you've got others in the division who are figuring it out and who have figured it out. So I think a little bit of hair on fire and urgency is needed for this team right now.
Yeah, I think the assistant urgency button should have been pressed. The fact that we're sitting here having a conversation about not seeing it, and especially on the offensive side of football for me, and I want to point out a guy who I feel like I seen it, and he's been trying to figure out, pulling his hair out on try to figuring things out, and that's Jeff Ulbrich. I feel like that's been there. That's been there for me. I don't know about you guys. I feel like Jeff is fully equipped to figure this thing out on the defensive side of the football. It's just unfortunate that it seems like Raw can't. But for you, Free, I'll simply ask, man, can Raheem Morris fix this?
No.
Whatever that this is.
No. There's no reason to think based off of what we've seen over the last year and a half, right? We saw this. We were having similar conversations last year after Kirk's, through Kirk's 4-game skid where he was turning the ball over. And, then we were just like, oh, well, Kirk's the problem. It was easy to basically blame it all on Kirk at that point in time.
Mhm.
But like they couldn't stop Kirk from turning the ball over, right? During that stretch of games. And as we sit here and talk about like all the issues that have plagued this team throughout the season, like they have been consistent issues from the jump. And this is what the Falcons are. And so rather than for me to be sitting here, well, you know, maybe they'll figure it out. It's like, okay, maybe. Yeah, I'm sure the Falcons will figure, you know, you talk about the sense of urgency. Like I fully expect this team to at some point in the back half of the season put a couple wins together and be like, hey, we're figuring it out. It's like, man, that ship sailed after the Dolphins game. Like the season was wrapped then. And like y'all needed to figure that out in week like 6 and 7, as opposed to, you know, in week 13 or whatever it winds up being. So I just think this is what the team is. You know, all the flaws are laid bare, the strengths, you know, are exist, but like they're inconsistent from week to week. And, you know, that's just kind of what this team is. And, you know, we're at a stage where if it hasn't been clear to everybody else up until this point, you know, that this is not a playoff team. They haven't been a playoff team, you know, basically outside of that Bills win. And you know, we're going to look back at this season and be like, yeah, that was the one impressive win that they had this year, but that's not the real Falcons. We wanted to believe at that time this is the real Falcons that's going to show up, but we have more than a body of work to know that, you know, that was their one sort of outlier great performance. We'll all be sitting here and be like, hey, that week, you know, those 5 days after that Bills game, that was the best time of the season, you know, kind of Kirktober condensed in a 5-day period. But outside of that, they're just a mid football team that just can't figure these things out.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't, to Aaron's point, they haven't given any indication that they will figure it out, which is concerning. There's really no signs of getting better, and there's been multiple different personnel changes at this point in the season. You get rid of Ike Hilliard, you get rid of Ray McLeod. You're saying that'll fix the things on offense. To your point earlier, Jarvis, you bring Zach Robinson from the box down to the field. That'll fix these communication issues, yet you're consistently seeing 3 and out on offense and putting your defense on the field for too much time. The issues continue to rear their ugly head in every single game that they play. And so there is not a light at the end of the tunnel where we sit today. Now, could it change? Of course, it could always change.
Sure.
But there's nothing that they've done to really indicate that it will be turned around. It's too little of time. There's too many issues. There's so much blame to go around. I don't think it's on one person. You know, football is a team sport, and there's a lot of people not doing their job to the best of their ability right now. And I think it's frustrating when we had such high hopes for a team that, to be honest, on paper, I thought was a playoff team. And I thought that this would be the year. And Aaron said it, you know, you blame Kirk and then, okay, Michael Penix, you draft him for this very reason. Get ready. Like, this is your show. And now it's okay. Well, I don't know. Like, you know, we knew there's going to be growing pains, but wow, it's really looking a little concerning. And they have issues with personnel on offense. Obviously, injuries have played a decent role in that as well. But no, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you would look at this team and the body of work right now, aside from, you know, what happened in Minnesota and against Buffalo, and say, this is a playoff team. They're going to figure it out. They're going to break the streak. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I'm with you. This is Raheem can't get this thing figured out. He is fortunate enough to have enough talent, have a good defense coordinator that can make some adjustments, deal with what he has from a personnel standpoint, and figure out a way to play well enough to win. I don't think he has that on the offensive side of football. And I think that he has done something that ultimately got Dan Quinn fired, is making bad hires with your assistant coaches. Like that's part of what ultimately got Dan Quinn fired. And I think that he made a bad hire with James, first time play caller. And unfortunately, it looks like Zach Robinson wasn't a good hire as well, because he was a first time play caller as well. So trying to fire him at this point, wow. Hey man, keep trying, and hopefully they'll try to have some consistency as going to the second half of the season. Well, thank you for making the Falcons Squad your first listen of the day. Make sure you check out your second listen of the day for Locked On Falcons right after this show. Aaron Freeman is about to go ablaze. He's about to.
Why are you writing checks that I have to cash now, Jarvis?
Because that's what I do, man.
Okay.
You know,
He's only said it like 10 times.
I was going to be chill, but now I have to go fire and brimstone.
If you're not lighting a box score on fire to open up the show, call it a wrap.
Hey, and look, there you go. Maria's helped you out, bro. That's it. There you go, right there. You know? So,
Just be careful, okay? Just be careful.
Look, make sure you all check him out. Also, make sure you check out Maria Martin on Sports Extra from 11 Alive. Man, she's super dope. Y'all know how she gets down as well. And myself, I'm a frequent contributor on Locked On Falcons. Also, I'm the host of Locked On Georgia Tech as well. So, hey, man, we got something in this city to be excited about, you know? Oh, yeah, man. All of this, what I just said to you is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, the #1 sports podcast network in America.